Another Leapfrog video, huh? So, if you're familiar at all with what I do here, you'll know I have an appreciation for those kids' edutainment consoles from the 2000s and 2010s. And there's some still being made now, but, 2000s and 2010s. I own 3 Leapster GSs, okay? I didn't want to get all of them out, but I own 3 of these. So, I just think they're neat, okay? And something that was missing from my collection as of 6 months ago, because I got this thing like 6 months ago and never got around to filming this, was something that could play Dig games. Technically, the Explorer GS can play some Dig games through hacking shenanigans, but you don't want to do it. You really don't want to do it. Least of all, it won't run the cartridges. They just don't work and they get stuck in there and it's a nightmare getting them out. But secondly, only some games work. There's a large portion of the library that just has horrible, graphical issues. Let me see if I do not have the one I wanted to show off installed. Great. It's actually this one. But, And anyway, you really don't want to do it. You can, and certain games run better, but it's a console with a library of 10 games, and maybe 4 of them are broken. And yeah, great. So you really want something that was actually made to be compatible with it. A Dig. You don't want a Dig. I'll get onto that. Or an Explorer. Now the Dig is kind of bad. You may wonder why this isn't a Dig here that I'm showing off. And that would be an interesting video. But the Dig was kind of horrible. It was capable of bricking itself unrecoverably just trying to play its own games. And yeah, not ideal. So the Explorer has native backwards compatibility with the Dig, and a lot of games, from my understanding, run better. I don't have a Dig. I do want one, but just getting a working one is a nightmare. Just finding a working one and keeping it working. And by that I mean you will not keep it working and you will have to get one of those, I think it's a UART cartridge or something. It's some Linux thing. And I'm not really familiar with it, but you basically just go in with the terminal and delete the flag that says this console needs repair, never boot again. Thanks, Leapfrog. Thanks a lot. I'm assuming when Leapfrog Connect for the Dig was still a thing, you could just plug it in, reset your console, and it was fine. That's not a thing anymore. So, great. Anyway, this is not a US English Leapster Explorer. And there are a couple things with that. This is a French one, I think Canadian, presumably Canadian. And there are a couple interesting things with that. Oh yeah, I forgot to put the batteries in. I also wanted to show the difference in the way the battery compartments work. On the later consoles, like the Leapster GS, it's a slide-out battery cover. It's an absolute nightmare. Unless you either file down the battery cover itself or remove these little foam bits. I got a comment on the video where I was talking about that. You can just remove the foam bits and it's fine. I don't think I have a console where I haven't already sanded it a bit, so I don't want to try it, but it seems sound. It seems like it should work, so I pinned the comment. Thank you to whoever that was. Anyway, the Leapster Explorer has the same system as the original Leapster, and LMAX, and Leapster 2, which I forgot to grab before filming, but it is what it is, where it's a battery case thing, and just slots in. There's a little screw. And I vastly prefer that, at least on a stock unit. Once this is modded to probably not be child safe anymore, but let's be real, I'm an adult collector. This thing's probably never going to see a child using it ever again. But, you know. Anyway, let's put batteries in. There were actually rechargeable battery packs for these, and all of them are dead. All of them are dead. So a bit of advice when looking for a Leapster Explorer is make sure it doesn't have the like metallic tabs on the back of the battery cover. You can see it. Most sellers just include pictures of the back in their listing, and you can tell if it has the rechargeable battery pack. And if it does, I mean, if you can get one of these to replace it, yeah, you're fine. You're fine, but you probably won't. So unless it's like a parts console, basically treat it like a parts console. Anyway, powering on the Nugget. You may notice that I don't have this thing loaded to the gills with legal backups of Leapfrog games. There's a reason for that. So, for the uninitiated, on I think all the Linux era Leapfrog devices after the Dig. I don't know about the Dig, but the Explorer onward, there's like a developer mode where basically you just use this little homebrew tool and tell it go into dev mode, and it'll put a flag in and it'll put your console into dev mode. So in dev mode, you can FTP into the console, access the file system completely, and this works on quite a few Leapfrog devices. You can, yeah, just dump games, you know, things like that. And dump games the wrong way, but dump games. And when you're in dev mode, you cannot go into Leapfrog Connect, the official tool, and the homebrew tool. I think it's called like, I can't remember what it was called. I'll put it in the description. I'll put a link in the description, but you cannot connect to a Leapfrog device that's in dev mode through Leapfrog Connect or through the homebrew tool that emulates Leapfrog Connect. So if you get it stuck in dev mode, you're hosed. So there's actually a little thing. I don't know where I found it. I think it was on the archive of Spiffy Hacks or something. But there's a little app that you just install on the Leapster that just adds or removes the developer mode flag. I don't know why I said tag, but it'll either add or remove it, and you can do that on the console, so you don't get stuck in dev mode. So this thing is, as of right now, unhackable. That's why I don't have it loaded up with legal backups, because I quite literally can't. So Leapfrog Connect has different versions of the app for each language of console. I don't know why that is actually something that matters, but it does. You can only use a French Leapster with the French version of Leapfrog Connect. You can only use an English Leapster with the English version. And I thought that was just a lockout that was, didn't really matter. It was just like, oh, some weird regional thing. But it would still technically work if you could get past the UI telling you not to, right? No. So this thing was not connecting to the homebrew tools, so I assumed, okay, it's in dev mode, and whoever sold it to me basically did what I did and tried putting it in dev mode, and never took it out. So I'm like, okay, I'll just FTP in. And 2 hours later, I couldn't get in. And it probably wasn't like 2 hours, it was probably more like 45 minutes. But anyway, I couldn't get in. So then I'm like, okay, what do I do now? So I DM'd someone on the Leapfrog server. He was very helpful for a couple projects. This, dumping the prototypes for the OG Leapster. He was very helpful for these things. And basically both me and him thought it was stuck in dev mode. And then I downloaded the French version of Leapfrog Connect off an archived version of the French Leapfrog website. And I installed it, and it connected. So it's not in dev mode then. And I don't know how to get it into dev mode because, again, I can't remember. I'm sorry, I can't remember what it's called, but the Leapfrog tools couldn't connect to this. So presumably there's actually something substantially different between the way the two apps work, and I don't know what it is. If I still have it, or like if I can find it again, I'll put it on archive.org. But yeah, it connected and recognized the device immediately. But I couldn't do anything with it because Leapfrog Connect, old version, servers are dead, blah. So I tried resetting the device, and I couldn't do it because it was trying to download some firmware that it couldn't find. And I had no idea where to find the firmware. I had no idea if I even could just supply it and it would install it. I had no idea. So I kind of just gave up and just used this thing with like the cartridges I have. I just think they're neat, okay? And something I also find pretty interesting is just preserving these. Dumping them, even if I'm doing it the objectively barbaric way and just copying the files off the cartridge through FTP. I find it, I just think it's neat, okay? And a lot of these games are just poorly preserved. There are a good few OG Leapster games that are just undumped. And I think with the Leapster Explorer, I think with the Dig, all of them are dumped except like one. But with the Leapster Explorer, it's pretty spotty which ones you can find. And I just think it's neat preserving these. Not just so other people can play them illegally, but also just preserving games. Game preservation is very important. And, you know, these are like, they're Leapfrog games, you know, no one cares, but there are dozens of us, you know, and I don't really know what I'm trying to say, but I just think they're neat,